Attention! Go!
Such an incredible sight to see the spray of water and the noise so silent sitting there in the blocks, isn't it, Tom? And then the fury of the eights. Such impressive boats to watch at the start line.
Well, there's almost no need to say anything at the start line because that silence that greets the storm is such a perfect moment just before the eights leave the state boats, and you can see two of the finest eights you're ever likely to see row the Henley waters here in the form of Newcastle and Brown. See there, Newcastle just closest to your picture. Looking pretty strong as they come out of the blocks, I have to say. That's the strongest Temple Challenge Cup 8 they've put together in a while, and they'll be looking to take down Brown and move through onto the Saturday.
So in the Bark station on the top of your screen in the yellow boat is Brown University from the United States of America. As Tom said, Newcastle University Boat Club A closest to us on screen. Brown out to a strong start, maybe with a slight advantage over Newcastle at this early stage.
I love watching these eights, and I especially love watching it when US and UK collegiate crews come up against each other, because you can just see the differentiation in styles between Newcastle and Brown. Brown, so much more extension on the front end of the stroke, really catch the boat out front, whereas Newcastle under Angelino Savarino have a lot more length at the back end, and there's a lot more pronunciation on the stroke around that area.
Yeah, certainly the Brown crew, they're settling into a nice rhythm here. They're very flat. It looks like it's a bit more forgiving than what the Newcastle crew are doing. They're quite aggressive through the front end in Newcastle. You can see the boat really punching along there. I don't know how sustainable that will be. The Brown crew just looking pretty long and lopey now as they get towards that, settling into what we call their mid-race rhythm. So starting to conserve after the nerves of the start. I know I've said it time and time again, when you're sitting on the start line, it's the most nerve-wracking moments of the race. I always used to get butterflies in my tummy, so it was about trying to just think about that first stroke and really be patient with what you're doing in order to not sort of blow everything out too early.
Well, as you say, someone actually asked me yesterday, when does the pain start in a rowing race? And I'm hardly qualified to answer. But I said after about a minute, and these crews now will be deep in the zone where you're thinking, your body's screaming you, I want to stop. And I think you're right in saying that Brown just look a little more loose, a little more dynamic around both ends of the stroke, and that could tell as they come down the course.
Yeah, we always used to think of this part of the race when you're coming out of the start sequence and into the mid-race rhythm. It was the most painful, but it was the most critical because it's that linking phase between the speed of the start into what's going to take you through the guts of the race and put you in a good position at the end.
The foundation, the stepping stone towards the middle part of the race, I think you're absolutely right. And actually, if you see there, Newcastle look like they've just squeaked out a bit, and that is quite typical of Newcastle. They front load all of their races to try and get a match on their crew, on the crew that they're racing. And actually, at Henley, in this match racing format, that can pay dividends.
Yeah, so this is going to be really interesting as it starts to unfold down the racetrack. They are front-ended in the way that they row, and that does tend to suit, as you say, the front end of the race. So will Brown, who are looking a little bit more conservative at this point, will they have somewhere to go in the latter stages of the race, and will this prove costly for Newcastle?
Brown are fierce racers, and this crew are very, very strong, having watched them come through a couple of rounds already at Henley Regatta. But there we go, Newcastle stretching out and trying to just break that intangible elastic that connects the crews. You can just see clear water at Henley is almost game over in an 8. See Newcastle just being warned of their position, drifting over a little bit, which perhaps suggests that the Cox can see that they're just about to break that elastic and wants to stamp on the throat of the Brown crew.
And so we know that it is something tactically that coxswains like to do. It's a little bit cheeky to be able to wash down the trailing crew because it does make them slower. It impacts the way that they're rowing. But we can see the umpire there, flag out, warning the Newcastle crew to move aside to ensure that they're not impeding on the crew from Brown, who are currently trailing.
Yeah, you see Boris Rankov there. He's already been a busy boy today in the ladies' plate. I'm sure he'll be keen to make sure these crews stay their station. But at the moment, Newcastle being warned again, but in control.
Got a great shot there from overhead. You can see that Newcastle is sitting just a little bit further into the middle than the crew on the right-hand side of your screen. Brown University, they have a great line. They're sitting just off the booms. But Newcastle here, you can hear Boris, as Tom said, getting progressively more frustrated with the crew that they aren't heeding his warning. Look, it is difficult for the coxswains. It's loud. There's a lot going on. But it should be up to the stroke man, I think, to be feeding that information to the coxswain, because the coxswain, of course, has their back to the umpire. So we need the stroke man to be able to say, you need to move over or we're going to get disqualified here. So they need to be careful.
Well, exactly that. I think the stroke needs to communicate with the coxswain. Just watching Newcastle there, you saw their bows tilt. And I think they've moved back into the correct part of the water and shouldn't be interfering with Brown any longer. They're just reaching the enclosures, and this race is Newcastle's to lose.
Absolutely. We know that Brown University, they've been here before. 2007, they were the Ladies Plate semi-finalists. 2009, Ladies Plate winners. 2012, Grand Challenge Cup finalists. And 2014, Ladies Plate semi-finalists. And, of course, 2017, Ladies Plate semi-finalists. So they're no strangers to this regatta and to this course, but they really have met their match here in Newcastle University Boat Club A, who've really led from pillar to post in this race.
Blinking, I missed this one. Both crews coming down the course. That happens in the blink of an eye.
And it will be Newcastle University Boat Club A, just ahead of Brown University from the United States of America. They'll be disappointed to be going out on the Friday afternoon.